Hi, I'm Kelly Kramer.
And I'm Scott Sipker. Welcome to Ingledinger Marsh here in central Iowa.
And our latest edition of Iowa Outdoors. Coming up on this episode of Iowa Outdoors.
We capture and tag a young Decorah eaglet.
Stroll through Iowa's rich ecological heritage.
Take to the skies of the Mississippi River.
Ride along with DNR Law Enforcement.
And explore another trail in a minute.
We'll have all that and more.
So sit tight, Iowa Outdoors is about to begin.
Funding for Iowa Outdoors is provided by the Claude P. Small, Catherine Small Cousins, and William Carl Cousins Fund at the Lincoln Way Community Foundation in Clinton County to support nature programming on Iowa Public Television.
And by the Alliant Energy Foundation. Many of Iowa's natural wonders you'll find on Iowa Public Television can be found in Iowa Outdoors Magazine, the Iowa DNR's premier resource for conservation, education, and recreation activities. Subscription information can be found online at iowadnr.gov.
Like passion for the outdoors, conservation is an endeavor that never ends.
Today's endeavor will see us wandering through a small patch of original Iowa landscape, as well as riding along with the Iowa DNR as they police all of Iowa's natural gifts.
But first, we return to Decorah with an exciting update on the town's most famous inhabitants.
For more than a decade, the eagles of Decorah, Iowa have fascinated onlookers inside our state and around the world. But research on these raptors goes far beyond a 24/7 webcam.
A dedicated band of conservationists and wildlife specialists have been banding and placing wireless transmitters on juvenile eaglets for years, and they're not done yet. Iowa Outdoors spent another sunrise with the eagle capturing experts.
With a full moon overhead, a dedicated team of wildlife experts is putting the final touches on a pre-dawn trap. The intended target? One of the world-famous Decorah eaglets.
A little bit. You got it kind of nestled in where you want it? Or
yeah.
Are we going to have to move it to put fish on?
Brian from the fish hatchery has done an amazing job baiting the eagles. Took a little while this year, but finally they were more independent and relied on themselves to find food, and they started coming down to the area where we set our Patum trap, which is just a noose style trap where they get their feet tangled up in.
Just trying to get them upright.
Basically.
And making sure there's no kind of gaps in here, so no matter where they walk across the paddum, they're going to catch something, a toe.
So we had a fish that was loose, kind of up more visible for the eagle to see, at least get their attention, get them down to our area where we had the trap.
Yeah, we don't want them to fly off with it.
Normally we can come out within a week, 2 weeks, we can get birds conditioned to come down to bait at that mulch pile that we've been very successful at over the years. For whatever reason, this year, these birds didn't want to get their own food. It just seemed like they would see the food there, be curious about it, start food begging, and then expect the mom or dad eagle to go grab the fish and go back to the nest and feed them there.
After months of pre-baiting a trio of juvenile eaglets, the Decorah team is in place for sunrise at the fish hatchery, and hopefully a hungry bird.
A lot of times they'll come in and circle over it, check out the situation, see, if there are fish there, in fact, which I'm sure they knew from a distance. Yes. And this happens all the time too, where the bird goes in, grabs the fish. Rarely do they eat it right there early on. They'll want to hop back up onto the mulch pile with that fish. So they're trying to drag it. Well, it's not coming. It had a good foothold on the fish. It was moving the whole trap, but I did not see a noose anywhere on that bird's foot. No. Just wait. So you can't blow the opportunity. You have to make absolutely sure you've got at least one noose around a toe, a foot, or whatever before you go dashing across it, because if that bird is not caught, it takes off, it's now trap-wise. You'll have a very difficult time catching it again.
She might be tangled. I see a noose that seems to be following her right tarsus, but we're going to wait until she struggles a bit. Oh, I think she's... Go, 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 go. 625.
As I'm heading toward the bird, it just came over me like, yeah, finally. Undoubtedly the female, just judging by the quick evaluation of the feet and tarsus size. It's always a thrill, every single time.
After another successful capture, Brett Mandernack and his team begin work on the next phase, safely attaching a transmitter to a very powerful bird.
641. 15.3.
She's a female, but she's not a particularly large one. I mean, even compared to other females, she's kind of middle of the road. Careful not to have any folds in the Teflon ribbon.
Along with his wife, Brett has mastered the delicate art of correctly sizing Teflon ribbon and a harness around eaglets still maturing into adulthood.
It was a process that we just developed over time, and this, with the stitching and the type of thread and the fabric of the ribbon and all of these things were just step by step. We learned how to do it better and better, and you know, over time you get to get a feeling for how tight or how loose you need to have that transmitter and the ribbons, and you know, yeah, the stitching is just, I learned how to do that in 4-H.
The transmitter apparatus must be tight enough to not fall off in mid-flight, but not too restrictive that it could reduce the eagle's flying ability.
2+.
It's a delicate balance with knowledge gleaned from decades of working hands-on with the American bald eagle.
And then we're even going to put a little dab of super glue on the end of it, mostly just to keep the Teflon ribbon from unraveling, and also to dab a little bit of glue on the knots, make sure that they stay intact forever and ever. Because this bird will likely have this transmitter on for many, many years. It's probably, you know, going to be with it a good part of its life, because Teflon ribbon is very durable. But there's no way to make a fall-off harness, you know, after X number of years. It just is not, you can't do it.
With a harness in place and the solar battery transmitter functioning, the eagle dubbed D27 is ready for release back onto the Decorah Fish Hatchery grounds.
It comes down to sort of the fundamental question of, if you don't know what your species is doing, where it's traveling to and from, and when, under what conditions, you have to know the species in order to be a good steward of that species, know how to manage for it in the future and the present. The only way we can really learn these birds' travel behaviors is to put satellite transmitters on them. You can band them and release them. You get 1 point when you band it, you get 1 point when it's recovered, usually when it's dead. It doesn't add up to a whole lot of data.
Over the following 9 months, Brett tracked D27 throughout its travels from summer to fall and over the winter. His data shows D27 stayed along the eastern third of Iowa as it dipped south and back north over multiple months.
Here we get data on each bird every day. We can learn in some of the details, the minutia of migration behavior with satellite transmitters that you cannot get other ways. And multiple years is very important too.
There's been close to 30 eagles coming out of this nest here with these two Decorah eagles, mom and dad, and a lot of them are out there. You know, we only know what's happened to a few of them based on the tracking studies that we've done, so it's valuable for the fans, and it's good research for Brett and crew.
Visiting one of Iowa's state parks is one way to guarantee outdoor adventure. But for something more, look to our state preserves. While the parks are DNR-attended, camping-ready outdoor recreation zones, Iowa's preserves are wild, ecologically diverse classrooms.
While just as exciting, Preserves are all about teaching visitors about the history and importance of Iowa's varied environments. At Doolittle Prairie in Story City, conservation enthusiasts have been teaching these lessons for decades with public hikes focused on what Iowa looked like long before settlers ever set across the Mississippi.
This is an evening prairie walk, and as the outreach coordinator, I'm responsible for promoting our events, and this is one that I do not have to try to promote at all. The people who come to this event are people who enjoy the prairie, they're celebrating the prairie, they want to learn about the prairie, and what's great about this event is Lloyd leads 4 hikes throughout the growing season, so May, June, July, August. You can come to each of those events and experience something completely different because plants are blooming at different times all throughout the year.
I've been doing it for 26 years, and I started back in about 1990, 91 or so.
Yeah.
Mountain Mist, yeah. I don't do a song and dance. I mean, some people are maybe looking for that, but if they want to talk about the soils, if they want to talk about the wildlife, they want to talk about the insects, they want to talk about anything, I can handle a variety like that, but it seems like everybody, what's this plant? What's that plant?
Over his nearly 3 decades leading Story County's Doolittle Prairie Walk, Lloyd Krim has gotten to know Iowa Prairie extremely well. It seems almost fitting that while his understanding is so diverse, the prairie's millennia-old plant life is what draws the most attention.
I've tried other parts of programs and done one really good one on soils. There's a guy at Iowa State that did an excellent job on the soils one, but ended up everybody's wondering, what's this plant, what's that plant? So it comes back down to identifying the plants. So.
Known as a pothole remnant prairie, Doolittle's 24 acres are a prime example of the depressional wetland marshes and landscapes that were found all across the northern plains states when the glaciers from the last ice age melted away. Many of these potholes turned into lakes and ponds, popular with migrating birds. Others, like Doolittle, offer a permanent time capsule of a traditional Iowa landscape.
It's more closely related to what Iowa probably looked like right after the glaciers receded. It's the pothole topography, the swell and swale. The ground hasn't been turned. Kind of like it was, and the vegetation is fairly close, but it's kind of like this is what Iowa looked like.
It's extremely diverse, and since it is remnant prairie, it's one of the best spots that Story County Conservation manages. I mean, if you listen, you can hear insects, there are snakes, there are mammals, there are lots of birds that depend on this habitat. There are, I don't know how many dozens of prairie species, so it's just really a special place.
Spanning the entire growing season, each of Story County's monthly hikes offer a different look at the distinct flora and fauna that call Doolittle home, as well as the natural life cycle Iowa's indigenous wildlife enjoys.
The flowering kind of varies a little bit. Some things bloom a little earlier, some things bloom a little later. I mean, it changes constantly, but it's the same plants. Early in the spring, before vegetation gets up sometimes, or else after a burn, you'll see the mounds from the crayfish, because the crayfish are pretty important out here, because they're bringing soil up and they're making holes, because where did that garter snake spend the winter? They probably in a crayfish hole.
None of Iowa's prairies and preserves see the visitor traffic of the state parks, and given their small footprint and delicate ecosystem, that is fine with local conservation officers. Still, as the years have passed, the Doolittle hikes have gained in popularity.
We're surprised how many people travel to come to these. They're not all local citizens of Story County, but lots of families, lots of retired folks, lots of college students or high school students sometimes.
A couple of years ago, I'd be getting around 10, 15, 20 people, and now it's 20, 25, 30. And last time we were here, we had 42 people, which is a record for several years.
Maybe the best part of Lloyd's tenure as Doolittle hike leader is the fact he's provided all his knowledge and time as a volunteer. Across the state, conservation boards hold volunteers as one of their most crucial resources.
We rely really heavily on volunteers. They are integral to our mission. We wouldn't be able to accomplish what we do without partnerships. Last fiscal year, we had over 5,000 hours donated by volunteers, which for us is the equivalent of 2.5 full-time staff. So they get a lot done. And in Lloyd's case, he's bringing something extremely special to the table. He's able to educate people about this wonderful prairie that we're standing in, help foster an appreciation and understanding of it. So we're extremely lucky to have volunteers like that give their time.
You think you know the plants pretty well until you lead a walk like this, and then you realize, oh, I guess I didn't know them very well at all, and so I pick up stuff as I go along. So I enjoy it.
Humility aside, it's events like Lloyd's Doolittle Prairie Walk that spurs conservation.
I hope that they see this habitat and they understand its importance. You know, they can hear all the life that is going on in the spot, and they want to get involved and take action on their own.
There's still like that have the white humble.
Driving along the Great River Road, there are certain views that demand travelers stop and take in the majesty of the Mississippi. While astonishing, sites like the Bellevue State Park Overlook only offer a single vista of the river. One possibility to vary the view is to take a look at Iowa by air. The most common view of the Mississippi River is through a car window. A shame when you consider everything you're missing. Bellevue State Park offers one of the few overlooks that replicates an aerial experience of the Mississippi River Valley. But not even that perspective showcases the full breadth of the Mississippi like that of a bird's eye view. Scattered up and down the Mississippi's Great River Road, few high bluffs are as inviting or picturesque as Bellevue's. And if you aren't able to see Iowa by air, views like this offer the next best thing.
We all want to safely enjoy Iowa's natural resources and have those important treasures protected for future generations. Those are just a couple jobs of the Iowa DNR's Law Enforcement Bureau.
The highly trained conservation officers are out here every day, educating the public and enforcing state and federal laws, helping to enhance the Iowa outdoors.
Hi kiddos, how are you? Going boating? Awesome, it's a beautiful day, isn't it?
Conservation officers with the Iowa Department of Natural Resources are sworn peace officers with the same powers of any city police, county sheriff's deputies, or state troopers. But these law enforcement officers have a lot of additional training and responsibilities. They enforce all hunting, trapping, ATV, and snowmobile laws. They lead hunter education classes, and during the summer, they spend much of their time here, on the water, focusing on navigation laws.
Just wanted to chat with you a little bit about him not having his life jacket on earlier. Okay, how old is he?
8.
He's 8, okay. Do you know the law about kids under 13, if we're underway, we gotta have it on?
Yeah, it was wet, he took it back off, he dried off, and put it back on.
Okay. When the boat's under power, okay, we gotta have that life jacket on him at all times.
Sure.
Okay. Just wanted to educate. I saw that he had it on when we came by to get you. If the vessel's parked like at the beach or something, you don't have to have it on, okay? And it sometimes gets hot, I know, right? But for safety reasons, we gotta have it on, okay? We want to be visible, we want to be seen. And the reason behind that is deterrence, you know. The biggest fear is arrest on some people. If they're out there and they're drinking too much and they see us and they just in the back of their head going, you know, I should slow down or I should get a sober driver, that's what I want. You know, I want them to be able to know that we're out here, we're gonna enforce the laws, we're serious about the boating while intoxicated. We want you to have fun out here, but we want you to do it safely.
Safety is key for everyone. When a police officer encounters someone with a weapon, tensions can rise quickly. Conservation officers deal with those tricky situations on a regular basis.
We're pretty much alone out there in that field, and sometimes we can be alone on the boat. Sometimes, you know, we're alone during hunting seasons checking hunters, and pretty much everyone that we encounter has a gun or a knife on them, even fishing. I had to come see what you're catching. The white bass? Check your license real quick. Do you have it on you? It's all right. I'll look you up.
Oh, you can do that?
Yep.
Yeah.
You're good to go, buddy.
All right.
Yeah, just make sure you have it on you next time. It's not a big deal. You guys are good to go. I'm glad they're biting for you.
Yeah.
So.
When fully staffed, the DNR has 90 conservation officers. In rural Iowa, each officer typically covers 1 or 2 counties. In metro counties or busy recreation areas, there may be 2 officers.
Most days is we're driving around in the countryside looking for hunters, anglers, and making sure people are being in compliance with our laws of the state of Iowa, making sure they have their hunting licenses, fishing licenses, and also, you know, education is a huge part of it. If we see a youngster out there with dad fishing, we want to stop and spend some time talking to that youngster.
Officers often visit schools or do other presentations in the community. Having an educated public can help officers enhance, promote, and protect the state's natural resources. Most people are glad they're there.
They thank us for our job. Thank you for being out there. My family's out here enjoying the day, and I feel safer with you being out here. So we get a good, you know, positive feedback from the public out here.
While patrolling Saylorville Lake on this particular day, Officer Amy spotted an injured pelican someone had called and reported earlier. We dropped him off near the shore so he could carefully capture the bird and figure out what might be wrong.
Back, you see the fishbone in the neck? Poking out of there. So, she's gonna go up to Ames from here to the Wildlife Care Clinic, and they'll take care of her from there and hopefully get that bone out of her neck and then get her rehabilitated where they can release her back into the wild here soon and hopefully get some food in her, because I think that fishbone is causing her not to eat and she's just too weak. And she might have a broken wing too, but.
It's all in a day's work for DNR Law Enforcement. The days can be long and often involve working weekends and holidays when many people are enjoying the outdoors. But it's a job with a rewarding mission.
It's a struggle between managing your family life, fun time, and then work, but you kind of knew that getting into the field, and that's what you love about it, is be able to go out and help people protect the natural resources, educate the public, and make sure people are, you know, the public safety is a big thing too.
It's time for IPTV's Trail in a Minute, where we show you a first-hand view of a different Iowa hiking, biking, or water trail each episode. It's a great way to relive a previous outdoor adventure or plan a future experience. And it's a pretty cool way to view the Iowa outdoors. Take a look. The Mount Lucia Trail in Stone State Park offers every kind of Les Hills experience you could hope for. While eminently hikeable, Mount Lucia is one of the many multi-purpose trails found in the park, meaning hikers, bikers, and horse riders are welcome on the path. As you journey along the 2.5-mile loop, the 4-foot-wide trail will shrink, and it becomes very important to learn the rules of yielding on a multi-purpose trail. Hikers yield to horses, bikers yield to everyone, and horses always have the right of way. As the tree canopy dissipates and the horizon begins to show, the summit of Mount Lucia is nearing. After a 300-foot elevation change, you've earned some time to enjoy the views should weather be cooperating. From here, hikers have several trail choices. However, Broken Toe Trail is the most direct route, offering new adventures on the way to the Lucia trailhead. As your hike comes to a close, hopefully you crossed paths at least once with some equine adventurers. But if not, You now have an excuse to traverse another trail in Sioux City's Stone State Park. That wraps up this episode of Iowa Outdoors. We encourage you to get outside and enjoy Iowa's parks and recreational opportunities. If you're planning any outdoor travel, check out our extensive video archive of adventures at iptv.org/Iowa Outdoors.
While our episodes will continue to bring you outdoor adventures over the Iowa airwaves, be sure to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for extended features and extra content. And feel free to tag Iowa Outdoors in your online posts. Who knows? You might make it onto the show. For now, we'll leave you with more images of Iowa's outdoor environments.
Funding for Iowa Outdoors is provided by the Claude P. Small, Catherine Small Cousins, and William Carl Cousins Fund at the Lincoln Way Community Foundation in Clinton County to support nature programming on Iowa Public Television.
And by the Alliant Energy Foundation. Many of Iowa's natural wonders you'll find on Iowa Public Television can be found in Iowa Outdoors Magazine, the Iowa DNR's premier resource for conservation, education, and recreation activities. Subscription information can be found online at iowadnr.gov.